If you're a fan of the Last of Us video game franchise and you haven't watched the show yet, I've got great news for you. The composer, Gustavo Santaolalla, is back for the series. We're going to have a look at some of his tunes today that were used both in the video game and the HBO series. I'm Mama Andy. Let's go. So the instrument that Santaolalla is playing on is called the ronroco. It's an Argentinian guitar that he's kind of famous for. He's been a pioneer on the instrument ever since he was a child, recording his first album on it at age 16. It's smaller than a guitar, but has 10 strings. So whilst it sounds similar to the guitar, it's got a slightly different harmonic feel. The strings vibrate at different frequencies, and it's got a unique sound. Santaolalla is a bit of a legend, by the way. He's an Argentinian composer and recording artist, and on top of The Last of Us, he made the music for Jane the Virgin, Making a Murderer, Brokeback Mountain, and Babel, both of which he won Oscars for Best Original Score in. What's super interesting about what Santaolalla is doing, though, is he's not playing it in a traditional South American style. We often see instruments like the ronroco or the charango played with fast strums using your fingernails, but he does something different. He plays with finger picking. This is something we usually associate more with the Western steel string acoustic guitar. And so he's merging two different worlds together with his playing style, which is really, really cool. What finger picking allows you to do is play different voices on the same instrument. So much like a piano where you can play bass, chords, and then melody. Same with finger picking on a guitar instrument. You can keep the bass going with your thumb, the comping or chords going with your fingers, and then often your fourth and fifth fingers are used to pluck out the melody. So the whole thing has this kind of hive mind feel to it, of every finger acting differently but contributing to the same whole. It's really, really cool, and it's a little bit, dare I say, zombie-like. So you can hear the melody being plucked out with the repeated notes, and then the accompaniment being played, bada 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 dum bum bum bum. So he's created this bed of tension with the E minor, where nothing really changes too much. We expand the harmony a little bit coming into the B section. Great, so we have this really fun descending chromatic line. One of the really important things with fingerpicking style on guitar, just like with keyboard, is a concept called voice leading. This determines what note you put at the top of the chord. What he does in the B section is play an E minor 7 with a D at the top, an A major with a C at the top, an A minor with a C natural at the top, and then an E. So he's showing us where the melody is by putting that note at the top of the chord. Chromatic walk back up, A major with the C sharp, A minor with the C natural, back to E. So we've created this bed of tension now. And tension is all about release. The two of them work in harmony. If you keep your audiences tense for the whole piece, they're not going to feel that cathartic release. It's about picking when you release the tension. You pull back the bow string, and the moment where you release the arrow is really critical. So we've had this creeping chromatic line, which hasn't done much to release our tension. In the next section of the song, we get harmonic release. We change from this never-ending E minor bass line and comping pattern into tensions building. It's like the sun's come out. Oh, gorgeous. It's so beautiful. So we go to C major, nothing fancy, to G major, our tonic major. And it's nothing super harmonically challenging. It's not hard to get your head around, but after so much tension being built, this feels amazing. It feels like we've arrived somewhere. It feels like there's been only darkness and gloom for so long, and then the sun comes out and it's beautiful. One of the beautiful things that The Last of Us does, both in its video game form and its television show, is find the light in the shade. This is something that writers, filmmakers, showrunners talk about a lot. It's a really critical part of finding a successful formula for drama. Is that you can't have a show that's sad the whole time because no one's going to watch it. You have to find the moments of light that shine through in the darkness. Similarly, you can't have a comedy that's all laughs. You have to have some emotional content to it. You have to have some ups and downs, or it's not going to be a satisfying watch. We crave that release of the happiness in the sad, or the sad in the happiness. That's what this music's doing as well. If it was just the whole time, not only would it be a little bit boring to listen to, it wouldn't be very emotionally satisfying. So the fact that he plays us along and then finally it's gorgeous. It's harmonic brilliance, and I love it. Cheeky flat 5 there. You can also hear the little ornamentations that he makes on the rondoko. Da, 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 da. Those little turns, would probably call them in classical music. Ba, ba, da, da, da. It's something that you can do with a lot more ease on a smaller instrument because the strings are shorter and have less tension. If you're trying to do that on a nylon string guitar with big fat frets, it gets a little bit hard, but you can sort of just bounce your fingers off the strings. Dun, 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 dun. His music is full of these turns and ornamentations and hammer-ons and pull-offs, and he does it really dexterously. What a G. Speaking of G's, I'm trying to grow this channel at the moment, and you would be my absolute G if you could hit the subscribe button. If you like what you're seeing, I'll have plenty more of it to come out, so why not come along? If you don't like what you're seeing, subscribe anyway and then never watch again. Why not? Okay, I want to have a look at one more track. This one's called The Choice. Okay, there's so much going on here already. It's so sparse and so simple, but even in those few bars, there's so much I want to talk about. Number one is orchestration. As we found out from his non-traditional playing of the ronroco, he's got a really interesting idea of orchestration. What you're hearing here is an electric guitar that's been tuned down a major third. So electric guitar has a standard tuning. It's usually fourths with a third in the middle. That's what we hear 95% of the time we're listening to a guitar. Santaolalla has used standard guitar tuning but down a major third. So instead of the lowest note being here, it's down here with a C. So it sounds sort of like a standard guitar tuning, but the strings are looser, so they do this thing where they float around and rattle and have this otherworldly sound to them. Got a sort of muted sound to it. It's also full of space and silence and dead air. And this is something that the composer himself has talked about, that he's really well known for the silence in his music. And I think for a post-apocalyptic zombie world, God, how perfect is that? That we're met with scenes of wide open plains and deserted towns and this empty world that we're left with after an apocalypse. And so we have music which reflects that space. 2 notes. Boom, boom. And then nothing till... There's no rush to it, there's no hurry to fill every single second with sound. He lets it hang so beautifully, and it just conjures up the idea of space for me, this big, empty world. He also uses a musical expression called rubato. For those of you who don't know, rubato is when music isn't strictly to a beat. So the music doesn't go bum bum, bum bum, bum bum, bum bum. You can't tap your foot to it. It sort of plays a note, and then in its own time, it's a form of music that lets us hear the human who's performing it. Because it's not metronomic, it's not decided by a map of beats or a grid or anything like that. The performer plays it when they feel like it. They'll hit the first one, then when the emotion gets them there. And I think a lot of Santaollalla's music is incredibly human. He doesn't use any synthesizers, no fake instruments. It's all real musicians, real orchestras. The human element is what makes it so commanding of our emotions, that someone is really understanding what they're doing and trying to present an option for us to feel a certain way. You can hear the ebbs and flows, which is so human. In the space. And you can hear the bowed guitar coming over top of it. Strike number 3 for unusual orchestration. Bowed guitar is a technique where you use a violin bow on an electric guitar, and it creates this really strange, haunting sound. Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin was famous for using it. And you can hear it cutting over top of the solo guitar. And that's it. Those are the 2 textures in this moment. He could have used a 150-piece symphony orchestra if he wanted, but the restraint is what's so fucking special about this music. It's empty, deliberately empty. That's it for us today. Thank you so much for coming along. Really wonderful to have so many new people at the channel as well. Give us a subscribe, stick around. I'm sure you'll love what else we've got. I love you all very much. Bye.